Hey everyone, my name is Josh, and welcome back to your fourth stimulus check and news update. We have a lot of news to get into in today's video, but first, if you would like to receive 2 free stocks from Webull valued up to $2,300, make sure to claim them by clicking my link, which you'll find in the description box below. Okay, so this week, residents in California will be getting $600 checks, but recently, another group of individuals were also approved as $600 payments as well. These payments were approved for meat packing and farm workers. Back in March, when President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan into law, it gave the Department of Agriculture flexibility to use some of their aid to assist food production workers. Since then, farm workers, progressives, and labor unions have been encouraging the administration to use this money to assist workers. Instead of these payments being distributed by the IRS, the money will be issued by state agencies, tribal governments, or nonprofits, who will then disperse the money after a formal application process. Furthermore, the USDA will also be using $20 million to help reimburse grocery store workers for costs such as unpaid leave and PPE. So, great news for those of you who work in this industry, and we'll definitely keep an eye out on any future stimulus payment programs. And some other news, with the House Ways and Means Committee doing their markups, we are beginning to see a few changes to the reconciliation bill. In the 645-page bill, the expansion of the child tax credit payments would continue until the year 2025, but would remain refundable after that. Furthermore, an expansion of the earned income tax credit would be extended permanently. Speaking of the child tax credit, payments for September should be going out on Wednesday of this week, so definitely be on the lookout for those. Also in the bill includes a number of tax incentives for clean energy and would create new tax credits for owners of electric vehicles. President Biden currently has a goal of electric vehicles making up at least 50% of US vehicle sales by 2030, so this is part of the reason they're including this credit. In total, the tax credit will be up to $12,500 per vehicle if it's made in the United States, which is an increase of $5,000 from what it is now. It also does away with phasing out the tax credit for automakers, which previously phased out after they sold 200,000 vehicles. So automakers such as General Motors and Tesla would once again be eligible for this credit. The bill would also create a tax credit for used electric vehicles, although a smaller one of up to $2,500. Of course, Republicans could argue that this credit is really only helping wealthier individuals, given that electric vehicles tend to be a good bit more expensive. The most affordable Tesla right now, for example, is right around $40,000. Democrats will argue this is more for the environment though, and that costs should eventually go down over time. In addition to EV credits, the bill also looks to make Obamacare subsidies permanent and also allow for the Department of Health and Human Services to negotiate for lower prescription drug prices. Moreover, the bill also looks to expand the low-income housing tax credit, which hopes to benefit developers of affordable rental units. Making childcare more affordable and increasing wages for childcare workers is another big priority for Democrats in this bill. Here is Democratic Representative Stephen Horsford discussing childcare access.
One parent in my district told me she saw a sign in front of a daycare center near her home saying childcare, $170 per week per child. That's almost $700 per month for one child and $2,400 for families with 3 children. Childcare in America is simply unaffordable. Half of parents say that the maximum amount they can afford to pay is $200 a week, and yet the average cost of high-quality, center-based infant care in the United States is $2,400 per month. And yes, people should be properly trained to work with our children. This is not something that you should do unskilled and with low wages. But in Nevada, the issue of child care goes even further. It's not only expensive, but it's also impossible to find. In addition to literally being in the desert, much of our state is considered a child care desert. According to data from the Center for American Progress, 72% of Nevadans live in areas that are considered a child care desert, which means there simply aren't enough child care facilities for the families that need them, including in rural parts of my district. And for the families who do find child care, they're paying out what averages to be nearly $20,000 a year, or 32% of their median income for 2 children. That's reality. Nevada's shortage is only surpassed by Utah, where 77% of the state's residents live in a child care desert, and across the country it's 51%. So this is what we need right now to pass this bill, worth $27 billion over 10 years for child care access and affordability. And as the executive director of the Children's Advocacy Alliance in Nevada told me numerous times, that high-quality child care was expensive and difficult to secure before COVID-19, and the pandemic has only exacerbated these conditions. But we also know that this is a gender and racial equity issue. As my colleagues have stated, women of color are disproportionately represented in the child care workforce. About 94% of child care workers are women, and about 40% of workers are people of color, who tend to be concentrated in low-wage positions, which decrease their ability to afford child care for their own children. For their own children. And now you want to come in here and say we're spending too much. And some of you are the same people who talk about issues like a woman's right to choose and tout the preservation of family while not wanting to address the real-life struggles that parents face, and child care is one of those struggles. So providing more child care options while making those options affordable and accessible to families is the best way to preserve families of all kinds. And parents need to be able to know that their children are well cared for while they are working. So this is bipartisan. For Democrats, for Republicans, and nonpartisans, you may vote no, but I'll vote yes for my constituents, and sadly, for yours too.
So he mentions a few different things here. First off, $170 per week per child is indeed pretty expensive. I don't personally have any children myself, but if you have kids, I would be interested if that's around what you pay at the moment as well. And obviously, if you're going to leave your kids to be watched, you also want the most skilled workers to do so. And guess what? To get the most skilled workers, you almost have to pay more as well. So a bit of a sticky situation, and that's why Democrats hope to do something about it. All in all, there's definitely a lot in this bill, and we should be learning more about what ends up being included and what ends up being dropped over the next week. Of course, being that Democrats only have a narrow majority in the House and a 50-50 gridlock in the Senate, many Democrats are slowly beginning to realize that their $3.5 trillion spending goal is probably just out of reach. Remember, midterm elections are coming up in 2022, and a lot more moderate Democrats in districts that could easily swing either way want to protect their seats in Congress. If their Republican opponent campaigned on them, saying they were being irresponsible by approving $4 to $5 trillion more in debt, for example, they could possibly lose their seat. Plus, of course, we have Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema in the Senate saying there's no way they'll approve $3.5 trillion more in spending. Without their votes and without a single Republican being on board with that type of spending, Democrats will fall 2 votes short from passing the bill. And really, at the same time, Democrats will only have until next year to pass the reconciliation bill and their other spending measures. Some of the recent polling coming out suggests that Republicans have a pretty good chance of taking the House majority back, which means that Democrats would no longer have complete control in Washington. Despite that, moderate Democrats would rather keep their job security and not allow for Republicans to say their party has been taken over by the, quote, far left. A former centrist Democrat, Ron Klink, believes that this bill will probably end up being much closer to $1.5 trillion in the end. That's also the amount Joe Manchin is calling for, and House Speaker Pelosi even acknowledged the final package is likely to come in at under $3.5 trillion. Still though, Speaker Pelosi is siding with the progressive wing of her party and wishes for the package to be much closer to the $3.5 trillion mark versus what Manchin and other moderates are looking for. So we'll definitely have an interesting month ahead, and I gotta say, Democrats certainly have an uphill battle. It is very, very possible that both wings of their party stand firm on spending and therefore never end up passing any of their agendas at all. And that would be a major failure for Democrats and the Biden administration. On the flip side of things, if House Speaker Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer are able to get moderate Democrats on board with at least $3 trillion in spending, they could declare this a great success. With that said, we'll just have to wait and see. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Before we take off, make sure to check the description box below, as you will find multiple links for different types of aid available, such as rental assistance. And finally, if you would like to receive a couple of free stocks from Webull, make sure to quickly claim them by clicking my link in the description box below. To receive the first free stock, you will need to fully open an account. Then, to receive the second free stock, which will be valued up to $2,000, you'll need to make a qualifying deposit of at least $5. And even if you aren't all that interested in investing or continuing to invest at this point in time, you can always sell the free stocks that you receive and transfer that money, however much they're worth, right back to your bank account. So free stocks or free money is completely up to you. So once again, I hope everyone has a great and safe rest of their Sunday, and I'll see you in the next video.